Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this video. The fact that you are willing to sacrifice a few minutes out of your day to consume my content really does mean the world to me. For those of you that are unaware, I tend to review Netflix-based properties, their new movies, their shows, and their series, but I was invited by Teamfinity SA to actually review some of their Sony releases, and today I was able to watch Escape Room Tournament of Champions, so massive shout out and thank you to Teamfinity SA. I really do appreciate it. So guys, let's jump right into that review. So of course, Escape Room Tournament of Champions is a sequel to the original Escape Room. It's a sequel that follows Zoe and Ben as they find themselves in another series of rooms that they need to escape, but this time they are joined by other victors of different tournaments. And so they realize, again, this is where the title comes from, it's a tournament of champions. And of course, everything is bigger, badder, bolder, and I will say in every single way, I think this was an improvement over the original. Before I carry on, guys, I just have to say this is coming out in cinemas on the 27th of August. Seriously, you have to watch this movie in cinemas. If I were to watch this off of my screen at home, off of a streaming site, I really don't think I would have experienced the film in the same way. I'm going to break down why this film was so great for me, but honestly, this is something you definitely want to experience in the cinema. Okay, so let's break down the very first thing that stood out to me about this film, and that was the atmosphere. This film has an incredibly tense and suspenseful atmosphere. There are very few moments of calmness. And that comes with the territory of Escape Room. Everyone is constantly being counted down. They're constantly having to do these challenges to survive. And so, of course, it's constantly tense. It's constantly on the edge of your seat. And while that can become exhausting at times, I feel like the movie really managed to handle the pacing well. We did get some character development throughout the movie. We got these character beats. We got to understand different characters and what their motivations are. And a lot of them went on their own little character arc as well, which was great. We got to watch these characters progress. While they move from one room to the other, we get to see their story unfold as the greater narrative unfolds as well. So as much attention was based on the rooms, there was a lot of attention based on the characters as well, and I really enjoyed that. Talking about the rooms and the thrills and the suspense and the challenges these characters have to overcome, what was great is that we as the audience can put ourselves in that situation. The way these rooms are portrayed to us, we're put in the position of the characters. And so we can try to decipher these codes within the rooms as well. I would say for the first two challenge rooms, I was able to decipher everything before the characters were. I felt like I was super smart and intelligent. And as the challenges got more and more difficult, I felt myself stressing, going, flip, if I was in this situation, I would be dead now. Because while I was able to finish the first two rooms quite easily, the third one on, I was sitting there flipping tense, realizing, okay, I would be dead. I would be dead in that situation. But this film also did the foreshadowing really well. You can actually tell quite a few narrative beats, a few scenes before they happen, if you just look for the clues. And this film is constantly telling you, like, look for clues. Everything is a clue. And if you actually look for these clues yourself, you can unpack character details or narrative beats before they happen. And that was a very fun part of the film for me. I like to rewatch films and look for foreshadowing. And this film had so much of it that I was able to pick up on it first time round. So many might see that as like a lazy form of foreshadowing because it was so easy to pick up on. But I think this film just did it really well. I think the actors also did a really good job in this movie. This movie had the potential to slip into a screaming fest where characters are just shouting and screaming at one another. They're just spurting out dialogue. And in many scenes, they are just shouting at one another. But what was great was the characters' performances and portrayals. While they are just shouting at each other because it's an incredibly tense, hectic situation, there's emotion layered into that. You can tell when someone is shouting because they're frustrated. And you can tell when someone is shouting because they're scared. It's not just me shouting, I've got dialogue that I've got to deliver aggressively. No, there's character motivation behind why they're responding the way they are. And that was enjoyable to me. We can see 4 different characters shouting and screaming, but their motivations for each is so different. And that was a really good, exciting one for me to watch. Another thing that caught me by surprise was the sound design. Usually, to me, if a movie sounds nice, it sounds nice, that's all it is. But this film used sound as a way to try and figure out specific challenges. If you were listening carefully, you could figure out when something was going to go wrong. You could figure out when something was going to go right. And so you could use sounds to help you solve these problems and these challenges. And it just sounded so good as well. When they wanted you to hear something, it was crystal clear, it was crisp. And the original score as well really pumped up the tension, it raised the tension. The score and the cinematography really went hand in hand together in this film to really create this atmosphere of tension. With that being said, this movie isn't perfect. I feel like the movie definitely suffers from its own logic a lot. And I'm not going to explain specific situations because those are all spoiler intensive, but there were several moments in this movie where I was sitting there going, I've been sucked out of this now because the movie broke its own rule right there. And that happened 2 or 3 times where there were massive moments that I just feel like wouldn't have happened either because the character, in my opinion, definitely wouldn't have done that, or the film's rules simply dictate that that shouldn't happen. And so it was just incredibly deflating for me. It took me out of my immersion in the film when those instances took place. I think this film was also a great film to analyze the human condition, human psyche, and their motivations. We see these characters fighting for their lives. And we can see these characters, they have different motivations for why they want to stay alive, and they have different responses to the circumstances that they're in. Some are fighting to survive for themselves, others are willing to sacrifice themselves for others and try to save as many people as they can. And that's a great way to really just break down humanity as a whole. What are your priorities and what are you wanting to succeed in? So ultimately, guys, I would say go watch this in cinema. This is definitely a film you want to experience on the big screen with some really good audio, because as I mentioned earlier, the sound design was phenomenal. While I do feel like the film trips over its own rules quite a bit, I think that's ignorable, and this is a film that you can enjoy. So I would recommend this to people that love puzzles, because this is definitely a movie that you can engage with and you can solve the puzzles with the characters on screen. That was probably the most exciting part of this film for me. But guys, thank you so much for watching. It really means the world to me. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Give this video a like, and I hope to see you again in another review.